Hi, Ryan. My upbringing was guided by two hippie-ass parents that gravitated to the freedom of creative craft, entrepreneurship, and illicit experimentations. Their off-tan approach gave space for my little sister and me to roam and daydream as free-range children. A late bloomer, I floated through school as my peers Gantt charted, identified goals, and mapped their whole lives in an afternoon. They left no room for flexually ambiguous, daydreamy nonsense. I came up knowing my father's woodwork team from the sidelines as a lazy boss's kid, set up in a blue shop on Guadalupe Street, across the creek from the Alizon Courts, known locally as Heroin Heights. Top 10 in all the least desirable metrics, cheap, and also tough enough to respect his ways of being. Inside, I saw beauty erected by large, sweaty men, and outside, the commerce of survival, as street workers plied their trade to afford the necessities of addiction. As I grew and wrapped up college, I was recruited in, deemed big enough, strong enough, and tough enough to survive the rigors and brutality, and assured that I'd have to prove it. So school left the impression of like a strategic, preemptive no ways of doing, making, and creating. You plan it out, you execute it, and you move on. The Millwork Group didn't play that way. What is alive and unique must be treated as such. They didn't have written rules or standard procedures. They had community, they had passion, and imagination. All projects were approached as if for the first time, with the flexibility and sense to feel and adapt our way through it. The openness and approach and craft bled into their relational ways of showing up. So later, as I was gaining acceptance, my father called an all-team meeting and announced the return of an old woodworking colleague, Carlos, with a stern warning. He's not who we knew, and he's not to be harmed. The crew already knew, and they began to swirl jokes, fear, and dismissive scoffs. Carlos was a mariposa, a butterfly. He dressed in women's clothes. From afar, he was villainized, dehumanized, easily discarded. And he was initially ignored, but as he got to work and over time, his skills and contributions were recognized and her identity respected. She went for drinks with the crew and was fiercely protected. Carla was our first transgender team member, and her strength opened the minds and hearts of our machismo and creative community of woodworkers. So now I work with students and professors in an academic makerspace, an echo chamber of shared ideas, where a whisper can travel for miles and gain energy and crescendo into actions. I arrive with bravado, a career spent acquiring skills to earn the title of the man with the plan. And what I found was that the less I told and the more I listened, the more participants talked and questioned and dabbled and tinkered and said things like, "Oh, look at this. Isn't that cool? Yeah, how'd you do that? Come over here, I'll show you. Like this. Oh, thank you. So how are you today?" The problem-solving light that shines in this space muffles and shades their prejudices and preconceptions. Preoccupied, they share more than how to do. They laugh and play and cry together. They share their struggles, their concerns, their accomplishments, their worries, their stories of self and of us. They recruit others to join in and provide energy and effort to address small or overwhelming concerns. They give their worldview and energy freely to the space. This uninformed momentum of freely giving and taking in of the messy, real self is what excites me now. Illuminates hints of the future we must grow. Communal spaces purpose for creation bring more than things into the world. They provide care and consideration for participants through relational problem solving that extends the reaches of our spectral array of concerns. Gives us sense of the stress our ecosystem is experiencing and directs group energy to shift concerns into opportunities to engage with change that heals from in to out. They cycle through generative change that breaks the cycle of oppression to rage, to revolt, to war.